What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today we're going to be talking about 5 pieces of outdated gear in the game, and there's actually a lot that I could talk about, but I want to talk about some that is recently removed from the game, but also things that I see people making and trying to sell right now, and you probably shouldn't do it. So yeah, there's a lot of things, but first, I changed my mic settings, so let me know if it's better or worse. Hopefully it's better, but I can always just adjust it if you give me feedback. So yeah, with that said, let's talk about the 5 things that I wrote down. So compared to last time, a lot of these are still the same, but you know, I actually see people still doing it, which I guess think of it as a PSA to not do it again. So number 1, right now we have a lot of different weapons. And you're probably wondering, are all of these still relevant, like the yellow tier? And Zarkas, Offens, Dandelions, Kuda maneuvers, nowadays in 2025 or 2026, they're mostly just used to turn these into like a black star. So no one is using these as actual gear anymore. So if you get like a box from, you know, you go to a world boss and then you just get a box, the reason why they still have a value is because people are heating those up and then turning it into those, what is it? Fragment thingies that you turn into black stars. But yeah, nowadays, these are pretty irrelevant. And if you see people selling them, it's because they're building fail stacks. And then if it goes to pen, you probably lost money, but like, it's something you can recover. So it's not something you should be using anymore. And, most of the time, people are going to be using black stars, which leads me into the Godr weapons. You see this number right here, how people are trying to sell these? That's not good. So let's talk about this. Why is Godr a little bit outdated and why you shouldn't do it? So if we compare it to black stars, the reason why these exist in the game is like 4 or 5 years ago, jump between Tet Blackstar and Pen Blackstar was extremely huge, and this was like a stepping stone where you could get some AP progress in between. So like think of this one as a base Tet Blackstar, and then Pen is the same stats, so you would get some like AP in between going from Tet to Pen. Nowadays it's a little bit different because Pen Blackstars are relatively cheaper than it was before, but also, you know, it's more expensive to be enhancing all of these because you're using pretty high stacks if you wanted to enhance them all the way to pen, whereas the cost of enhancing it would be significantly more than just, you know, either raw tapping it for fail stacks or, you know, just getting it. So yeah, you're going to be spending more going from base to pen than you were to just click it or, you know, buy it. So yeah, you see a lot of people trying to sell these. It's not so great. And I think that if you made the mistake of making a Godr, thinking about trying to sell it, this is what the problem is, and it's not really going to sell. So yeah, that goes for all main hand, offhand, and awakening weapons. Here's what I'd recommend. If you're in the market and you're trying to get an upgrade, let's go for just buy a Tet Blackstar or buy a Pen Blackstar. That's the better choice. But one thing I see a lot of people doing is buying a Tet and then they just raw tap it. That means no crons, and hope it either goes or you build a fail stack that you'll use later for sovereign weapons. So yeah, my recommendation with the price being extremely low, like at an all-time low right now, is buy it if you need it, and or buy a Tet and just slam it for fail stacks, and if it goes, that's great. If not, you have fail stacks for the future that, trust me, I guarantee you'll need it. So the next thing I want to talk about is, while we're talking about black stars, it's the armors. And I hope one day in the future they'll allow you to use the, like, you know, in other MMOs they call it like transmog, or, you know, something you could just delete the item, but then you're able to use it as a cosmetic. And so I actually think the Black Star armors, they're not ugly. They're just irrelevant in terms of gear stats and everything. So maybe one day, if they ever want to make it relevant again, just say like, here, for everyone who has a pen, you can delete this item and it's a permanent cosmetic, where it, you know, like pearl item, I guess you could say. And then it just goes into the slot over here, like in the middle circle, so you can just use it with your main gear. So yeah, the reason, I guess we could talk about a backstory of how these Black Star armors existed. So back in the day, when Fallen God armors were, you know, considered new, there was a shortage of Capra stones, and people had like the pen armors, but they couldn't get enough Capra stones to get this to Capras 10 and then convert it. So Black Star armors were the equivalent of that. So if you got this to pen, you could skip that process and go straight into Fallen God. Black Star armors weren't ever really good, even when they were new. The reason why people have it is just because it was an alternative option. And so, yeah, nowadays Capras are all just sitting on the market. And even then, you should just, if you can buy a Fallen God armor just off the market, you skip all those steps and you just go straight into the armors, which you can get one try nowadays from the Tuvala exchange from Fugar, the seasonal NPC. And so you could literally skip all these. For the other three, I'd recommend just buying it and then, you know, go from there. So until they do something with Black Star armors, the stats aren't even, you know, they're not even really good anymore. So I'd recommend just not buying them, and hopefully one day they do something with it, just like, you know, cosmetics, and then that'd be cool, right? But until then, it's irrelevant. The next thing I want to talk about is Capotia gear. Now, this is a good stepping stone, but nowadays, if you're watching this in like 2026, it's a little bit outdated simply because all the catch-up mechanics and gear that they give you in the game are basically just, you're getting pushed out. So you're just not even going to be using it for that much longer, because Tuvala gear is basically the equivalent, or if not better. And so, you know, all these seasonal gifts that they give you, like right here with all these Capotia accessories and the boxes and everything, they're good starters, but I wouldn't really say they are relevant much anymore, because Charizard is the end game and more people, it's pretty easy to get it. And also, you know, Devos are, you know, going up and down in price, well, going down every year. So what I'd recommend, going to Fugar, this NPC, you'll see some leveling aid quests, and then they'll have like a Charizard accessories. And what you do with all of that is take your seasonal character. You see how all your gear is at like pen or something, right? What you would do is you get all these to deck, and then you can exchange it for gear going forward. So is it like Tuvala realistically is, you know, you go there into, you know, Debarekas or Charizards. Capotias, they're just like, they were good back in the day, and now they're not really. So it's one of those things that you just, it's nice to have. What I would do with it is put it on a boss ult. If you don't have a lot of seasonal characters with season gear on it, put it on a character and just put it at a boss, and then, you know, that's what I'd do until you have all your seasonal characters. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is boss gear. So, you know, when you go to, you know, various bosses, it's probably, your gear probably looks something like this. All these yellow tier ones. Now, they give you a yellow Tet piece for completing a season, and what people do with it nowadays is basically just slam it for fail stacks. So like if you have a Tet, people just click it to pen, hoping it fails and builds a +6 fail stack. The equivalent of all of this is pen Tuvala. So getting one of these is, you know, it's the same thing, but plus fail stacks, and these aren't really sellable after. So it's not really worth enhancing these days, just because the prices of everything else is a little bit irrelevant. And we can look at it on the market. I'll show it to you, at least here on NA. So like, let's see. these yellow tier ones, that's not good. If you're trying to enhance it, you're going to lose money on average, because like these are what, 1 billion. People are buying them to, you know, potentially get a +6 fail stack, going for 10. And if it goes pen, like, you just lost your stack, which probably costs more than what it actually is valued at. So it's not really a good idea. You're just making a little bit of silver back, even if you lost a fail stack. So most of the time, what I'd recommend to people is just not doing this, and unless it's like the free one and you don't care about the stack. If you're trying to build fail stacks, the thing is to buy those Origin of Dark Hunger thingies like this one, and that's the guaranteed way, which is, you know, it's fine right now. And the last thing I want to talk about that recently got deleted with the recent season that started was Naru gear. So you know how for all of you season characters out there, or like new players with season gear, here's what you do. Compared to what Naru gear, which is like pre-Tuvala, which I'm glad it's gone. What you do is go to the NPC, you see all these Tuvala gears, this is for seasonal characters, and you just buy these, enhance it, and you just go from there. So it's like cutting out the super beginner step and just putting you into Tuvala, which is also very easy nowadays to do. So Naru is no longer in the game, which that's a good thing. And then you just go from Tuvala all the way to boss gear that you would use outside of seasons. So yeah, that's about it. And just wanted to make sure that all of you know, if you are thinking about, you know, all these weapons and armors, like for example the Godders, just don't do it. Here's what you do. If you're gonna make a black star, just make the black star, don't convert it, just sell it at like Tet or something, and I guarantee you at Tet this will sell faster than any tier of Godr. So, and even if you have a purple pen Godr, you have to convert this back into black star unless they changed it, and so you're spending another 1 or 2 billion changing it from purple back to black star and then converting it to sovereign. So it's like the extra billion that you might as well just not do. Once again, a lot of these problems can be fixed by just having like transmog or cosmetic exchanges with all of this. And I think they're doing something with the Calpheon balls. Like you get to have a purple or a red glow or something, or you have to grind some materials out. But we don't really know until it happens. So we'll figure that out when it does. But yeah, those are 5 pieces of gear that, or 5 things that I wanted to talk about that are a little bit irrelevant that I thought were notable. If you look at the market and you're like, oh, let's look at all this, and you're like, oh, what is all this blue gear, green gear? Those are stuff from like 2016, 2018 that was good back in the day, not anymore. So you could just safely ignore all of those. So yeah. With that said, that's it for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. Before I wrap up, I just wanted to say, if you are buying any A coins or game packages, use my code on screen. It helps me out and I get a little bit of what you spend. So I'd always appreciate it, never required. And it just is really nice. So with that said, once again, I have different mic settings and let me know what you think of it. Is it better? Is it worse? I can always adjust it in the future. Just need your feedback. But I'm out for today. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.